Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Celeste. Assassine's out January 28th on Nuclear Blast. The album has 8 tracks, 42 minutes in length, and this is the band's 6th full-length studio album. They are a French avant-garde black metal band. Now, this is a record that has a design, a structure that really enhances the experience of the album itself. It matches the soundscape and it matches the atmosphere that this record is putting forward. If you look at this album, you could find a journey, you can find a path within it, but that path is not always clear. It's there, it's murky, as the sound is, as the experience comes across. It's a very dark sounding album, so it's not always easy to find your way through it. Sometimes you will lose yourself in it, but it's not really about finding your way out of that darkness and try to find exactly where this record is trying to take you. This is an album that's really designed for you to appreciate every step that you're taking on that path. Not necessarily the path itself or the destination, but the steps that you're taking, the lessons that you're learning along the way. You're going to take something from the song, carry it forward to the next track, allowing you to better experience that song, and then taking that experience over to the following track, and so forth and so forth. I really like this design, I really like this experience. It carries a little bit of a different vibe. And then having an instrumental track nearly the middle of the record is the perfect way of putting an album like this together. Because when you're learning and when you're taking experiences along the way, you need something within the album that allows you to not pause, but slow down those experiences so you can better digest them, so you can better understand how you got to where you are, and then prepare yourself for what's coming ahead so you can better feel the overall fluidity of the album, so you can better understand how the album is constructed. So that instrumental track plays a pivotal role in how you're going to perceive the album and the playability that the album offers. Once you get into the soundscape, the album has this grit, this rust, this edginess to it that allows you to not really find the clear edges of how these songs are created, or the parameters that divide, or the parameters that even create the songs themselves. And this becomes a very important element of the soundscape because it stays very consistent. Now, there are some songs where the sound is a little bit better defined, but overall, that's the experience that you're going to take away. And that experience of sound being a little bit edgy, not having really clear defined parameters, it plays into the overall construction of the songs, and it plays into the overall design, the atmosphere, and the emotions that are built within the tracks. Where the song is going, the image, the message that the song is trying to portray has the necessary sound to it to really convey that message, to make it feel a little bit more palpable, a little bit more visible. I like the overall robust nature of the record because this album could have been really thin sounding considering how driven it is at times, and considering that lack of definition around the edges, but this is a very robust sounding record. It has a lot of volume, and that helps make the album feel a little bit bigger and even a little bit heavier. Even though I don't really feel sound-wise it's a super heavy album, but having big volume helps give you that aspect, that feeling that the album is a lot heavier than what it really is. Now, within the sound, there are 2 motors that drive the experience: the drums and the guitars. The drums on this album are phenomenal. I love the drum sound. I love what the drums are doing. I love how they ground the record, how robust they make the overall experience. One of the reasons why that soundscape is so big is really because how powerful the drums are throughout the entire record, staying very consistent, very close to home from the beginning all the way to the end, not just in terms of how they come across, but in terms of what they add to the overall creation of this album. Also, using the cymbals a lot really helps the record because it gives you a little bit of light, it gives you a little bit of life inside of an album that's filled with absolute darkness, and you need it. You need to feel like there's a little bit of a heartbeat within those drums. You don't want the drums to be just hollow, have depth, but be hollow and not have life. So the cymbals, the splashes that exist within the drum sound throughout the record really gives a little bit of energy. It really gives you a little bit of a sense of light at the end of the tunnel that really helps enhance the overall tracks, the soundscape, and even has a positive impact in the atmosphere. The guitars are a lot more diverse than the drums. They really pull you in different directions, and what you're going to get, the learning that you're going to achieve from each and every single song, the lessons that you're going to learn really become different from track to track depending on what the guitars are doing. In some cases they're a little bit more driven, more inspired by the black metal influences of the band, sometimes a little bit grittier, pushing more into the sludge side. But once again, Where the guitars are going is exactly where the atmosphere is taking you, and it's where the message that's built within the song wants to go. So they become a little bit of the motor, they become a little bit of the driver, the conductor of the experience, something that you can hold on to in order to better understand exactly where that track is trying to go just by the way the guitars sound within it. On top of it all, you have the vocals, and the vocals are very consistent from start to finish. They don't really waver. But this is an important element. That consistency really helps the record because it gives the album heaviness. It gives the album added darkness as well. Not that the album needed any more darkness because it's there in terms of the sound that it carries, but the vocals definitely add more darkness to the overall experience, but they also add heaviness, the aggression, the intensity that they have, and the consistent approach that they carry from beginning to end allows the record to feel a lot bigger, a lot heavier than it really is. It's a very important element to really make the album complete in all aspects across all different parameters. Overall, this is an album that you can't just sit and digest a song here or digest a song there. This album calls to be listened to from start to finish in order for you to get the full appreciation, not just of the songs, but of the record itself. Like I said earlier, this is an album that offers you a little bit of a lesson to be learned with every single song. You're going to carry something forward with every single track. So if you don't have the sequence of tracks in order for you to feel complete at the end of the journey, the album is going to fall flat. So you have to really go through it in order to get everything that this album has to offer. It is a magnificent record through and through. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Nonchalantes de beauté. Gritty, penetrating guitars really becomes the point, the calling card of how this song comes across. The drums fill in the sound, they make the track bigger, they ground the track, they give it a little bit of a foundation, and that's really important for how gritty the guitars are on top. It allows them to levitate a little bit more without the song becoming light. The vocals obviously add to the experience, they add heaviness to the overall song, they add darkness to the message that they're delivering. The track allows the listener to sink into it. It's a song that the more you're listening to it, or the deeper you get into the track, the deeper you feel like you're getting into it. You're really sinking into quicksand as you're listening to this song. A really interesting experience as far as the track movement and the movement that you carry with it when you're listening to this song. It has some melodic undertones, and that gives the track a little bit of a sense of helplessness to it. It really gives you a sense of despair almost. Really interesting aspect because it really captures the overall vibe that the track has, but in a different way with a different element. Next you have Draguée, tout, heavier drums. This track has really heavy drums, and they really jump into the forefront with that heaviness, not just depending on the vocals to create heaviness, but also adding the drums with a little bit more of a predominant role as far as that specific element is concerned. Thumping at times, I should say, helping shape the track, creating a little bit more of a foundation, but also creating the parameters in which this song is going to exist and how heavy it's going to be. That is what the drums are doing throughout this entire song. It helps the way the movement of the track comes across. It helps the guitars levitate a little bit, adding a little bit more drive, adding a little bit more of a penetrating sound, sometimes becoming a little bit chunky with it in order for that heaviness, that volume to become a little bit better defined and easier to understand for the listener. There are nuances within the sound. The nuances that exist don't make the song necessarily very dynamic, but it do give the song enough of speed bumps along the way that the track doesn't feel like it has that sense of sinking into it. You really feel like you're moving across it, perhaps not very fast, but there is definitely a sense of movement, and the vocals guide you throughout that movement and at the same time give a little bit of a glue that holds the consistency of the track together. It merges what the guitars are doing with what the drums are putting forward, bringing it all together as one, pushing the listener forward throughout the entire experience. Last but not least, we have This is the instrumental track. Absolutely phenomenal. I love this track for two reasons. I love this track because of what it does to the record, the way it breaks the album, and the way it allows you to look back at the past experiences, understand them a little bit better before you move forward. And then obviously I love the track because of how it sounds, how it's constructed, and how it's delivered. It's a very different song, not just because it's instrumental. It's a very different song from everything else that you're going to hear on this album. This is a track that has a lot more of an atmospheric start to it. It starts very calm, very somber, the calm before the storm, and then it has an exponential growth to it. It doesn't flatline. It doesn't follow a guideline. It doesn't have set parameters. No, exponential growth. The song becomes a little bit less atmospheric and becomes heavier and heavier, bigger and bigger, thicker and thicker. The growth that has within it is absolutely phenomenal. It's almost like you're planting a seed and you're seeing that tree grow throughout its entire existence until the day that it dies or you cut it down. So there's this path of life built into this song, from the moment of birth, which is a moment of simplicity, a moment of happiness, all the way to the time that you grow to be old and you die. That whole path of life is built sound-wise inside of this song, and how the song comes across and how you feel towards it, because it really has that sense of happiness moving a little bit more into sadness, anger, despair, finality. I love this track. I love the movement. I love the growth. I love what it's doing to the record and how it sounds on its own. This is it. This is Celeste with Assassines, out January 28th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.